Alrighty guys, the Comics Kid 2099 here, and I have a graphic novel that I want to talk to you about. Fear Agent, Volume 4, Hatchet Job. This collects issues 17 through 21 of Fear Agent, and I don't really know what to think of this series so far. I've been pretty positive about it up until now, even when there was like 1.5 volumes worth of story that was completely rendered moot thanks to time travel and then time travel being undone. I was still okay with that because those events that did and did not happen shaped the characters in this series. But now, I'm really kind of unsure of what direction this series is going. It's kind of getting to a point where I was really okay with this series for the first few volumes, and then this volume kind of took me a step backwards. And I'm not even sure if that's fair or not. I have some criticisms against this series, and I'm really not sure if those are nitpicks or if this is an actual criticism that is fair against this series. Number 1, Volume 3. That was the volume that was almost entirely a flashback. It was showing basically how Heath Houston got from the point where the aliens invaded to his point of despondency in the present day. It basically just bridged that gap. And I was really excited about that volume. I really liked seeing the birth of the Fear Agents and how all of that got started. I really liked that. Here's the problem. The framing device of that volume was Mara, who is the woman who's been traveling with Heath this entire series. She comes out and sees that he's brooding on the moon, and she's like, hey, listen, I know I was hard on you earlier, but do you want to talk about it? And that entire volume, she's basically a sympathetic ear for him. He doesn't actually take advantage of it, but she's being friendly toward him. The very beginning of this volume, guess what's happening? Mara is once again being cold and unsympathetic towards Heath. I don't understand why she's going from being cold and unsympathetic at the very end of Volume 2 to being sympathetic all throughout Volume 3, or for the 2 pages of Volume 3 that are set in the present day, to once again being cold and unsympathetic toward him. And for the first 4/5 of this book, I was pretty certain I knew the reason why. I was thinking, okay, Rick Remender wants Heath and his ex-wife Charlotte to get back together by the end of this series. And you've been reading this series, you know they were together before the aliens invaded, and then, spoilers, Heath committed genocide in the events of Volume 3, and so she basically said, I don't want anything to do with you, and so he went and traveled the universe for 10 years, or however long. I guess it's been 10 years since he left her, and then however much longer before that, that the events of Volume 3 spanned. But then he comes back, and in this volume, suddenly, we're seeing his ex-wife give him doe eyes when he's not looking. And Mara, she's being really rude to him and basically doesn't want to give him the time of day because he is talking with his ex-wife and not being 100% rude to her. Because he's being just a little bit civil to his ex-wife, Mara is being a total jerk to him. And so I'm thinking this entire time, okay, all of this is an effort to get these two characters back together. And then the end of this volume kind of throws that into question. So really, I guess what I wasn't so sure about with this volume was what direction this series is going. And I said that at the beginning of this video, I think. At one point, Heath and Charlotte's current husband, Keith, not to be confused, they do have similar names, those two are thrown into an arena combat situation by these hostile aliens, and Keith basically throws himself on Heath's sword, and or spear, same difference, and then before he does that, he tells Heath, by the way, you have a daughter that no one told you about. And all of this, Keith sacrificing himself so that Heath could make it back, telling him, by the way, you have a daughter, Mara being really jerkish to Heath, all of that made me think, okay, they are trying to get Charlotte and Heath back together again. And then when, in the very last issue of this book, Charlotte finds out that it appears that Heath actually killed Keith. Of course, we know that didn't happen, but nobody else believes him. When she finds out about that, she basically throws up her shields again and is really angry at him again. And so he's like, you know what, I'm tired of this, I'm just going to leave all of you people, I don't want anything to do with you. And then this book ends on another huge cliffhanger, which this series is known for. Volume 1 ended on a big cliffhanger where it seemed like Heath was going to die. I'm pretty sure Volume 2 also ended on a big cliffhanger. It did, I remember that now. And then Volume 3 didn't end on as much of a cliffhanger, but this one, once again, a huge cliffhanger. And by this point, I'm pretty sure that Heath Houston could be put on an autopsy table and cut into 1,000 pieces, and we could actually see it happen, and then in the very next issue we would see him recover from that. He has come back from so many impossible situations situations that it's kind of impossible for me to even care when something really serious happens to him in this series. And I'll go ahead and tell you what the big cliffhanger is. He and this other guy are in the ship, his ship. I don't remember what it's called. I don't even know if it has a name. And they fly into a black hole. And then they age like 1,000,000 years in the span of like a minute. Like in the very last page, he has like a Santa beard and he looks really old. And I don't care because I know that in the next 2 pages of Volume 5 that he's going to recover and he's going to look like he always did. It's really hard for me to care at all about these characters when we see time and time again that the stakes don't actually matter. Except when they do matter. In this series, in this volume, Mara dies. And for all I know, she'll be brought back in one of the other volumes. It seems like some more time travel shenanigans are possibly going to be happening again in the next few volumes. So who knows? Mara may be coming back. But as of right now, this volume wants you to think that Mara is dead as she can possibly be. And I don't know. Maybe she is. And Mara, she's another interesting a part of this equation, if you will, because she's a character who I really don't know what to think of her. We find out exactly why she was working with the Dressites, and we found out at the very end of Volume 2 that she has formed an alliance with the Dressites, and we find out it's because she has a bone to pick with this human being, or he looks like a human being, but he keeps talking about the people of Earth as her people, so I don't really know if he's a human being or not, but basically, this guy, he turned over a large group of humans to the Dressites, not the Dressites. He turned over a large group of human beings during the invasion of Earth to this other group of aliens. Not the Dressites and not the Tatalians, but this other group, and I don't remember what they were called. He turned this large group over to them, and basically she wants revenge on this guy. And so she turns over the coordinates of the last remnants of humanity to the Dressites, also she can find this dude and kill him. Extremely selfish on her part? Yes, absolutely. But this series excels at taking characters who are complete and total scumbags and trying to make them sympathetic. For example, Heath Houston, I feel sympathetic towards him. Even after he's committed genocide against an entire species, I still feel sympathy toward him. Mara, not so much. This series, if they bring her back, which they might not, I really have no idea. If they bring her back, they're going to have to really work hard to make me care about her after all that she's done, because it's really hard for me to feel sympathy for her after what she's done compared to Heath Houston. And it's weird because I would say fewer people have died because of her actions than Heath's actions. But still, I still feel more sympathy towards Heath after what he's done. And speaking of what Heath has done, there was a girl, one of the Fear agents from Volume 3. She was on the planet Dressin when Heath destroyed all the Dressites. And she became merged with a Dressite somehow. I don't even know how this is possible because up until this point we've seen that Dressites are basically just walking piles of slime. They don't merge with people, but now we're seeing that one of them has merged with her somehow. And so it's looking like she is going to be one of our big villains of the entire series, kind of the series-long villain. Her and possibly the Tatalians. And once again, I'm still not sure which species is worse, the Dressites or the Tatalians, because it keeps bouncing back and forth between the terrible things the Dressites are doing and the terrible things that the Tatalians are doing. So, for all I know, they're both equally bad, and they're both going to play a huge part in the final volume. This volume, I didn't like it as much as all the other volumes in this series, and I can't really put my finger on it other than I felt like this entire volume was leading towards this one direction, and then it takes a huge, huge sharp turn away from that direction, and it's not even a direction that I necessarily wanted to see. I didn't have to see Charlotte and Heath get back together. I really didn't need to see that, but it felt like this entire book was steering us in that direction, and then it makes a sharp turn away from that, and I feel like, once again, okay, all the events of this volume were basically moot. They were basically leading towards something, and then they go in a different direction, and I feel like this entire volume was just a huge waste of time, and that's really harsh because it's not a huge waste of time. We're introduced to a new villain who was introduced to us last volume, but now we're introduced to her as a villain. One of our main characters is killed, possibly to come back, and also we find out that Heath has a daughter. So lots of stuff happens in this volume that's important for the overall series, but I still feel like most of what happened here was just kind of a waste of time. It was filler, kind of treading water until we got to something that happens next. And maybe I'll change my mind when we get to the next volume. Maybe I'll be like, oh, okay, all of that stuff from Volume 4 was really necessary. But right now, after just finishing reading Volume 4, I don't feel as strongly about this as I felt about Volumes 1, 2, and 3. And it's not that this is a bad volume, it's just that it's not measuring up to the quality of those volumes. And I feel like my criticisms are worthy. I don't think after reading this, after kind of going through this video, that my criticisms are just nitpicks. I really do think that I have some legitimate complaints about this volume here. But what do you guys think? What did you think of this video? If you've been reading Fear Agent, what did you think of Volume 4? Did you like it as much as the other volumes? Better, worse? Let me know in the comments below, and I will talk to you guys later in the week. I've got some other videos, and then next week I'll be doing another volume of Fear Agent. I'm getting close to the end, and I know one of the next few weeks is going to be Tales of the Fear Agent, which is not part of the main series. It's just an anthology of short stories set in the world of Fear Agent. So that's either going to be coming next week or the week after. But look forward to another few Fear Agent videos in the next few weeks, and that's about all I have to say about this video. So I hope that this video found you guys well, and I will see you guys in the future. Have a great rest of the day.